Basketball season is officially underway in Raleigh. Hi everyone, Noah Fleischman here, host of the Wolfpacker Show. NC State men's basketball is 1-0. NC State women's basketball also 1-0 after their first two games of the season this week. It's officially basketball season, the best time of the year in my mind, and both teams are playing well to start the season. Men's basketball knocked off North Carolina Central 114-66 on Monday night. Women's basketball ranked ninth in the country gets an upset win on a neutral site in Greensboro over number 8 Tennessee 80-77 in comeback fashion. We're going to dive into both of those things today on the Wolfpacker Show. It's a basketball-centric podcast with football being off this week. And we're gonna talk all about the hoops. Men's full breakdown with Jamie Shaw. I'll break down the women's game after our guest joins. But first, I want to give a special thanks to our sponsor, BetMGM. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks this season. We'll have special offers to our listeners each week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here is how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. That's ON and the number 3. Deposit at least $10 and place your wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 and over. Only U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the United States, 877-8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY, 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, and 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-981-0023 if you're in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that require in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. So, NC State men's basketball kicked off the Red Reckoning in front of a sold-out Lenovo Center on Monday night. That was the first time Lenovo Center had been sold out for home opener since 1999 when the building opened. It's been that long, people. That is an impressive feat from Will Wade and company, doing it against a non-high major opponent in North Carolina Central. The 30-point favorites came out and won by 48, covering the spread on BetMGM.com. And NC State kicks off the era 1-0. Deron Williams led the way with 19 points, 8 assists. Had a really good, supporting cast around him as well. And the Wolfpack were able to walk away with the victory. You look outside of Deron Williams, preseason player of the year in the ACC for a reason. He scored 11 of the team's first 13 points. It was really that kind of bus driver NC State lacked a year ago. He settled them down. They were able to get rolling after that and end up winning 114-65 or 66. Excuse me. The score, when you look a couple places, it says 65. It says 66 elsewhere. I'm going to go with 66 until I'm told otherwise. But that's for now. We'll go with 114-66. NC State opens Will Wade era strong. Let's break it down right now. On three and rivals. Jamie Shaw, one of the best in the business, will join the show to talk all things NC State basketball. Now we're joined by rivals Jamie Shaw. Jamie, what's going on?
No, man, it's good. Basketball season here. Weather's nice. Can't ask for anything better.
NC State kicked off the season with the big win over North Carolina Central. You were in the building, kind of just watching from the stand, seeing what the Will Wade era was going to look like. When you see this team on the court, what were your just initial takeaways from a 48-point win?
The biggest thing for me, the biggest notice that I had was the ball movement. I thought the ball stayed hot. The ball was touching a lot of hands. People were getting a lot of opportunity. And the shooting. With the hot ball, you got a lot of open looks, a lot of good looks at the basket, and multiple guys across the floor were able to capitalize on those. So I think the ball movement, as opposed to a lot of one-on-one stuff, I think keeping the ball hot and also the length that they had. You kind of look across the lineups. They were going at various times 6'5" plus throughout the entire 5 of the lineup with good length and lots of fluid versatility on the floor. And it was just a very interesting, very fun brand of basketball.
Yeah, and 27 assists on 37 made baskets is a good night. 19 threes is also a good night on the basketball court. Paul McNeil made his mark, starting the lineup. Trey Holloman, they started a lot of different guys. But, you know, was there anyone that really impressed you? Deron Williams obviously coming into the ACC Player of the Year took over early. Who kind of stood out when you're watching them?
Well, I guess I could take this answer twofold. Obviously, the biggest standout, and then kind of somebody that snuck up a little bit that was intriguing to see what he looks like in the future. Deron Williams, obviously the first one. I mean, he came out, knocked down 3 threes. But what was really impressive with him was the passing. The way he was moving the ball, I really appreciated the way that they lined him up at multiple spots on the floor and able to run offense through him. He's not the most athletic guy in the world, but he's got an unbelievable feel for the game. So his ability to move the ball, his ability to find open teammates, pass guys open, left hand, right hand, live dribble type stuff, getting into the teeth of the defense and kicking it out to open looks. Really liked the way that this team was able to touch the paint, kick it out, and get an open look at the shot. And I think Deron Williams played a huge factor in that with his ability to line up at multiple spots. A sneaky player to me that I'm very intrigued to see how he looks moving forward was Jerry Dang. He stepped on the floor, and every time I see him, I've known him Norcross High School, going through his time in college and all that stuff. And every time I see him, he sneaks up on me how big he really is. The actual size that he brings, even looking down on the floor, he's a big guy, but he seemed to really fit within a lot of what this team did, especially with kind of the shooting, with his ability with his length and kind of ability on the to have a plus side on the rebounding and all that. So I'm very intrigued to see what Jerry Dang looks like in the rotation moving forward, as he seemed to kind of fit a lot of spots, but he also really played confidently. I thought he came in as the game went on. He was confidently getting his shots up, and with that type of size and ability to pull gravity as a shooter, um, there's a lot of intrigue there. So Deron Williams was the most impressive player on the floor. Makes the right play and things run through, and he was awesome. And then Jerry Dang, I'm intrigued to see what his rotational stuff looks like minutes wise.
Yeah, Deron Williams, 8 assists. He's not really you would think of him as a point forward, but he was able to make plays happen. Had a nice pass inside to Venal Lubin where he kind of spun the ball into the paint and a wide open dunk there. And talk about Jerry Dang. He's 6'9", but he can shoot 40% from three. And he didn't really have a great shooting night, but he's definitely confident he's gonna let it rip from the three.
Yeah, no, and that seems to fall in line with what Wade's looking for and everything. Guys that can attack from multiple spots while pulling gravity, positional size, and everything too. So this team ran. How many guys played double figure minutes? Was it 10 guys? I mean, obviously it was a blowout win, but to be able to get that many guys, that many minutes, shows that his rotation could actually run pretty deep of guys that he feels confident with.
Yeah, Will wants to run an 8-man rotation. Thinks it'll probably be around about 9 for the non-conference play, and we'll see if he can cut it down to 8 going into ACC play. But those are two kind of standouts from this game. But Jamie, we look at a 48-point win against North Carolina Central, who, when you look at NC State's schedule, is probably one of the worst opponents on there. Not a bad thing, but it's a way to start the year. What does this win and this kind of dominant effort do for you when you look at kind of the better teams that are coming up on them?
Well, so as I was sitting there watching that game, I was looking through past scores and stuff throughout the previous years and everything. And obviously during non-con play, um, every year you play teams that you're supposed to beat by a lot. This was the highest point total NC State had since like 2017. Going back to the amount of points. So that means in that many years and that many non-con games, they weren't able to do what this team did on night one in the Will Wade era. And then going back to that, looking at like Gottfried, I don't know. I can't remember exactly, but I don't know if Gottfried ever scored 100 points in a game in his tenure at NC State. So, and if he did, it was only one or two times. So it's just rarefied air to get 110 plus points in a game, to score as many as they did within a game. Obviously, you see the 48-point stuff and everything, but kind of taking a step further, they did what they were supposed to do. They put an inferior opponent to bed. So that's good to see. It's good to see the fact that they didn't let off the gas. It's good to see the fact that the how excited not only the players were for the success of the bench guys and all that, when Snell knocked down his shot, or even when the bench guys came in and did all that, the excitement that they had, and everything, but the crowd, coming into the game, I typically, when I would come to an NC State game, was able to 30 minutes ahead of time, kind of just pull right up into the parking lot, get in there and park and do all that stuff. There was actually a wait, try to get in about 30, 45 minutes before the game here. And I was backed up, off Wade Avenue and everything. So, and then getting into the game, they stayed until the very end, 50-point blowout for the entire second half, just about. And the crowd was there to the end. They were loud to the end. They were excited. The decibel level when the guy missed both free throws to get the Chick-fil-A biscuits was high. And then when Snell hit the three, it was high. Like, it was the vibes around Raleigh were high. And, that was my biggest takeaway from what it was. Now, obviously on the play style, they're going to need to tighten things up. And I'm sure game one of putting in a new system with entirely new players, that's expected. But the basic shell of the things they were trying to do, move the ball, stretch the floor, keep it hot and do all that. A lot of positive takeaways as to what this season could possibly be.
Definitely. It's important to note, when you're winning by a 48-point margin, that's not really an accident. This is a staff that's very analytical. These numbers matter when it comes to margin, building your resume with numbers and efficiencies. Offense was pretty efficient in the game, which is going to look good going down the road. You know, Jamie, before we move to recruiting and things like that, what do you think of just the non-conference schedule coming up? I didn't really get a chance to ask you this. You've got Kansas, Auburn, Ole Miss in December, VCU coming up in a couple of weeks. The level of play is going to come up a notch, and obviously Will wants to, improve things that they didn't do well in these first few games, whether it's the exhibition against South Carolina or against North Carolina Central. What are you looking for when they start playing these more quality teams, teams that could be playing in March as well?
I think when you come to putting together a good non-con schedule, you want to build in some wins, and with building in wins, that that entails cleaning things up. That entails having live gameplay against other teams, against other types of defensive, against other types of schemes, and cleaning up what you have going moving forward. But then also to be challenged, to go against teams that have high major caliber talent, while building wins and resume and all that, and then building that up to some big games like the Kansas and the Ole Miss game coming up, toward the end of the non-con type schedule, building up for the ACC play. Obviously, ACC play, conference play is going to be everything. You win the conference, you win that, you go to the NCAA tournament and do everything. But the non-con schedule builds your team, ramps you up into the conference play, but also it gives you different types of feels that you would get in the NCAA tournament type atmosphere. I think with this team, they did a really good job of that non-con. You got a couple good mid majors like Liberty, VCU. You got a couple of high major teams that could be pesky type situations with Auburn and Seton Hall, and then you have some teams that should be fighting for top 25. For pretty much the entire year when it comes to Ole Miss and Kansas. So, and then a whole bunch of stuff in between built in to have some home crowds and to shore things up a little bit. But a good non-con schedule. I think we're going to get a really good feel as to what this NC State team is moving into league play.
Definitely. There's plenty of time before ACC play kicks off right before the new year. But Jamie, before we get out of here, Will's a known recruiter. He recruits everywhere he goes, gets talent. So far in the 2026 class, he's got talent with Cole Clower and Trenton Carter Givens, or Trevon Carter Givens, excuse me. But now he's got his sights set on a big fish. Deron Rippey in town for an official visit this weekend, will be in attendance at the UAB game on Friday night. What is your feel on this recruitment? And, is it going to be ending soon? Is it going to draw out into the spring? What's your kind of take on what Rippey's up to?
Well, I think coming into this visit, I think it would be hard to say that NC State doesn't have a little bit of momentum coming in. There's a lot of talk surrounding the NC State, and everybody involved in the recruitment is watching this visit to see kind of what happens. I will say with that, though, Tennessee and Duke came out of that, out of their visits. Those are his previous two visits with some confidence, and moving into this, he remains top priorities for both programs on the recruiting trail as well. So it's my understanding, talking with sources, it wouldn't be surprising to see NC State try to close this while on campus and get it done during the early period. talking with Deron Rippey throughout the entire process, he has maintained that he's open to going until late. So I think it sounded like there was a possibility of narrowing things down, focusing on his top group through the early part of the season, watching the games play and all that type of stuff, and then going to a commitment there. I think NC State is going to attempt to uh, make that a little quicker of a decision, trying to get things done on campus here. But we'll see if they're going to be able to do that. We'll see what that entirely looks like throughout the process, because other schools are still prioritizing him and have a little bit of confidence in where things stand with that. But I think it would be foolish to sit there and think that there wasn't a little bit of momentum coming in, and this is a visit that even everybody involved with the process is watching.
Yeah, he's the last visit. NC State is his last visit on, a list of 7, 8 that he's been taking over the last few months. He moved up to number 5 in your rankings earlier this week. Before we leave, what can people expect from him to see as a player if he were to pick NC State?
He's got a lot of explosion pop, and that's kind of the first takeaway that you have from him. You see his raw ability to really attack the basket and even play above the rim, especially in transition. But with that quickness, he's got unbelievable pace on the ball. Great in the pick and roll. He's able to get a defender on his hip and make reads out of the paint, spraying the ball around left hand, right hand. He's a nice pull up jump shooter. He can play in the pick and roll set. He can also play in a free open 5-out type set, get out in transition, quick twitch. And he's got a lot of electricity with his game. Throughout this entire summer, first team All Adidas Euro camp, first team All NBPA Top 100 camp. Coming out to the Steph Curry Elite camp, he was the high school MVP, and Donovan Mitchell camp, all that. He was a finals for Team USA U19. So this whole summer, he played against the very best of his peers and exceeded expectations and was one of the top performers every court that he stepped on. Carry that over. He's a back-to-back state champion as well. Winnings just kind of followed him around. But his game, he's got an it factor to him. He's got a competitive nature to him, and he's got a lot of electricity when it comes to that point guard position with what he brings.
Yeah, he's a highly coveted player. A lot of people want him. Will Wade and staff have a chance to make their impression this weekend. Jamie, I appreciate you hopping on, and we'll talk to you soon about more NC State basketball.
Sounds good, Noah.
I appreciate Jamie Shaw for hopping on the show. We're going to have him on every Thursday to break down NC State basketball in the season, starting this Thursday, moving through March Madness. He knows everything about the team, knows everything about the recruiting side of things. He's plugged in. He's one of the best in the business. Lives in Raleigh, which kind of helps us out a little bit more too. So appreciate Jamie Shaw for hopping on the show. Switching gears from the men, let's look at the women. 80-77 win over Tennessee in Greensboro. They looked really, really good. They fell behind by 10 early. Tennessee kind of has this, full court press, shoot a lot of threes offense. And their press defense is one that can rattle a lot of teams. But NC State handled the press pretty well for the most part. 10 turnovers in the game, 6 of those coming in the first half, 5 of those coming in the second quarter, which the second quarter was a quarter that NC State just had to survive. Tennessee, jumped on them early, scored the first 8 points of the period. But NC State didn't lay down and quit. They fell behind by 10, able to cut that deficit to 4 going to the half of the 15-point period. And then they came out in the third quarter, scored 23 points in that period, 17 in the fourth. Did enough to get a stop at the end. Smart play. I think the biggest play of the game, you ask me, there's 2 people with double-doubles. Zoe Brooks, 13 points, 11 rebounds, and Camille Pierre, 21 points, 14 boards. But the biggest play of the game came on Matilda Trieger's 8th rebound, her final rebound of the game, in the final seconds. There's a missed shot on a 3 from Caden Samuels. Trieger right by the basket, gets the board, immediately kicks it back out to Zam Jones, who had 18 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists, for those wondering. Zam gets the ball, just starts dribbling in the backcourt, dribbling like crazy, just trying to run the clock out. It ran like 8 to 9 seconds off the clock doing that. She got fouled with just under 2 seconds left. Made one of those free throws, put them up by 3. Tennessee couldn't get a good look off at the buzzer to win for the Wolfpack. So a great win to start the season for West Wolfpack, which returned a lot of players, right? When you think about it, Zoe Brooks, Tilda Trieger, Zam Jones, your 3 starters that are returning. They plug in Caden Samuels, who did not have her best night. 1 of 8 shooting, 1 of 4 from 3, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. She didn't have a turnover though, which is a good thing off the wing. But NC State really didn't get much from their wings at all. Devin Quigley off the bench was 0 for 2. Not a great night for the wings, but the way that the front court played, man. That is the most impressive thing. Tilda Trieger with her 19 points, 8 boards. Camille Pierre, 21 points, 14 rebounds, 40 of the 80 coming from those two players. In all, the starters scored 75 of the 80 points for the Pack. They look good. Good win for them to get started off this season. Westmore likes playing these really tough non-conference games. Last year they started 4-3 before they ripped off, 20 plus wins in a row, got rolling. This time they start off with number 8 Tennessee, get on the win column in Greensboro in the Battle of the Borough. But they got to turn around quick. They're playing another ranked team on Sunday afternoon in Charlotte as USC, the 18th ranked Trojans, come to the East Coast to take on the Wolfpack. NC State, an opportunity to do something that nobody else in the country can do this week. Start the season 2-0 with a pair of ranked wins. If they do that, I would be the first to jump on the wagon saying they need to be a top 5 team in next week's Associated Press rankings. Of course, they've got to win a game first. Playing USC, who is without Juju Watkins this season, but I mean, they've got Jazzy Davidson, one of the best freshmen in America, anchoring that backcourt now. So we'll see what they can do in the Ally tip-off in Charlotte on Sunday at 3:30. But if all signs point to this game against Tennessee, where they played a weird offense, took care of the ball for the most part. I mean, a weird defense, took care of the ball for the most part. Ran Tennessee off the line. Tennessee took 33 threes, only made 9 of them. That's 27%. And when you're a team that's shooting basically half your shots from 3 and you're not hitting, that's a long night for the Vols, and that's exactly what happened. So Westmore's team looked really, really good. The thing that I'm really worried about is the bench. 5 points, all 5 coming from Kaishia Lunan in her collegiate debut, 2 for 4 shooting with a 3. Did they clean that up? I think that's the biggest thing to look for against Southern California, because eventually the starters aren't going to be able to be clicking on all cylinders like they were on Tennessee, because I don't know if you're going to be able to bank on that for 32 games in a season. So the bench is kind of where I'm looking forward to see improvement from this week, and we'll see if they can get it. We're also looking for Lorena Wu, who was dressed. She did not play, kind of a matchup thing in the post against a pressing defense. I think we'll see her against Southern California on Sunday afternoon. But Westmore's team, this is a guy that knows what he's doing. This is a team that's, went to the Final Four a couple years ago, Elite 8, or Sweet 16 last year, have made a Elite 8, a few more Sweet 16s mixed in there as well. So he knows how to win in March, and they're playing March games in November, which is only a good thing for women's college basketball. So catch Sunday afternoon at 3:30. We'll have all the coverage on the Wolfpacker.com about that. The men are back in action Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern against UAB. But before we get out of here, I just want to give a quick shout out to NC State men's soccer, ranked 5th in the nation, opens the ACC tournament with a 3-0 win over Louisville. They're back in action Sunday at 6 p.m. against Syracuse in the second round of the ACC tournament. Winner punches their ticket to Cary for the ACC semis. So keep your eye on that score. If they make it to Cary, go and support them in Raleigh. Go support them in Cary. This is a fun team to watch. They're really, really good, and they're clicking right now. So I appreciate you hopping on, listening to the Wolfpacker, or watching if you're on YouTube. I appreciate it all. Make sure you check out Roback wearing this sweatshirt right here. You can get save 15% on your first purchase using code NCS20. Go hit that up. They're comfy. I wear them every show for a reason. You need to go get yours right now at roback.com. We'll be back next week. We'll break down basketball next Thursday. We'll have a couple games to talk about. 2 men's games and 2 women's games between UNC Greensboro for the women on Wednesday night next week. Or no, the men are playing UNC Greensboro. The women also in action next Wednesday night as well. Doubleheader there in Raleigh. And then we'll preview NC State football going on the road to Miami next weekend after coming off a win over number 8 Georgia Tech. Can the Wolfpack continue the momentum? They hope so. We'll find out next week. But for now, we'll see you on Thursday.